to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show and our rookie draft review of our 53-man Bigger is Better IDP League. We start 22 players in this league weekly. It is a best ball, start 11 offense, start 11 defensive players. Yes, I am not a huge IDP guy, but this is total fun. Right, Matt? Matt English here for you.
Yeah. It is a whole new play on fantasy and how you have to offset defenders versus what they bring in from a point of view. It's a lot. It is a lot, but it is so much fun. Couldn't do every league like this, but I can do one.
No. We can do one, and there is only one. We play for a big-ass trophy in this league only. That is it. The victor gets the spoils here. And when we started putting this league together, we wanted to make sure there was a way that we were getting the superstar defensive players as valuable as possible. Like, I'm talking, we wanted them to be worth, second or third round startup picks so that they were almost quite to the value of the elite quarterbacks, but not quite, more so where the elite wide receivers are, I would say, is where these superstar pass rushers and maybe a few defensive backs are valued at. For instance, like TJ Watt, he went in the second round, I think, of the startup last year when we did this. Micah Parsons went pretty early as well. And so that brought up this year's rookie draft, where the big question was where Abdul Carter would end up going. We all pretty much knew that Travis Hunter was going to be the #1 pick in this format. Ashton Genty still quite valuable in this league, but with the added IDP points, it just made Travis Hunter kind of a no-brainer, right, Matt?
Yes. with the point system, what is it? 10 points on an INT plus.
So yeah, the way we made the defensive superstars extra valuable was we awarded 10 points for each sack and 10 points for each interception. So the other points aren't so crazy. I mean, solo tackles, I think, are worth 2 points. So your big time middle linebackers are quite valuable week to week, but it's best ball, and so there's literally one of those linebackers on every single team in the NFL that can get you 7 or more tackles every week. So that's where, yes, Zaire Franklin from Indianapolis, he might be up there in points because he is a complete tackle machine more so than everybody else. But the other middle linebackers, they kind of all just cancel each other out. So you just want to have a few of those on your roster to get you a baseline point total on defense. But let's go ahead and let's bring up the draft board here, Matt, for us there, and let the viewers see what we got into here. This first year we had a rookie draft, right, for this league. Last year we did this draft with rookies included in the startup. The startup was a fun 53-round startup.
It took some time.
Yes, the normal 30 round dynasty startups. This one had an extra 23 rounds to it. Yes, but here we are. So Matt, you had a ton of picks going into this draft, including that 101 that we referred to with Travis Hunter. Want to explain that at all, or is there not much more to get into taking him over Genty or even Abdul Carter?
Right. So, I mean, this was almost a no-brainer for me. There were offers on the table for the 101. But for long-term, what I foresee for Hunter, even if he's only getting 20% snap share on the defensive side, the chance of him getting an interception or a few tackles, some pass breakups, that kind of stuff, those extra points on top of whatever receiving production, to me, was totally worth it. To have both sides of the field covered, that was an easy choice. I just, you know, with what we've seen with some of these defensive players week to week in this league setup, I mean, defenders can put up 60 points, the good ones, right? Not every
Oh yeah,
week,
Aiden Hutchinson had an 85-point game last year with that 4.5 sack performance. So yeah, the big hitters that rush the quarterback, they can get you monster points. But then there's the downside to that too. They aren't very consistent. Like if they don't get to the quarterback and they only have 1 or 2 tackles, well, you're looking at less than 5 points from them. So then they're not really going to hit your best ball lineup. So they are real volatile, we'll put it that way. But then Hunter, on the other hand, you know, with all of his offensive stats we're projecting for him. I mean, personally, Hunter, I have him as like the 102 or 103 in our regular dynasty leagues anyway, to begin with. You know, there's some leagues where maybe point per carry is involved where you could argue Hampton over him, but otherwise it was pretty much Genty and then Hunter or Hampton as my top 3 in just about all of my formats.
Yeah, me as well.
But for this,
me as well.
Yeah.
On Travis.
Yeah. So for this one, then, though, this brought Abdul Carter into play because of the volatility of the sack artist, and I am Havdi. Ryan, he decided to jump right in and grab Abdul Carter there at the 102, as you can see. It was a pick that he kind of maybe regretted later, but then he wasn't showing it. He was definitely solid with it. This is opposed to other IDP leagues where you only start maybe a couple of IDP players. Again, we start 11 IDPs here. So the defensive players do matter. And as you can see, the second round was filled with a few defensive players also. So I don't really think he overstepped by taking Carter second. I mean, he was going to go in the top 5. It just was a matter of who wanted to jump on him, right?
No, that's correct. I mean, what do we have? We had 2 go in the first round, 3 in the second round, I believe.
Yeah, three pass rushers there in the second round as well.
And then just 1 in the third, but then in the fourth, you start seeing a lot more go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, after the main offensive players, like after the, you know, in our normal rookie drafts, the first and second round offensive players went, and it got to the third round, fourth roundish offensive players. That's where the first round picks on defense in the actual NFL draft, that's where those guys ended up starting to go in that fourth round there. But if we go through it, and again, to argue for the Abdul Carter pick, being that it's 53 man and you're starting 22, it kind of devalues the running back position a little bit. First of all, in best ball, I tend to not roster as many running backs. I try to keep it to, you know, literally just starters and maybe a couple of backups. But I don't want those third string, fourth string wide running backs that I would normally carry in a lineup league, just hoping for an injury. You don't want those zeros on your roster, right, Matt?
Exactly. And I think this was a league that I intentionally sank the ship at some point during the season to ensure the number 1 overall pick, because I saw immediately the mistakes I had made in the startup draft and where I needed to make changes. So, you know, which is why I accumulated as many picks as I could to get in here and help reshape the roster, but also bringing in veterans, right? I think that was a very big change in what I did. I think I brought in 2 veteran running backs, 3 veteran defenders, either right before the draft, during the draft, and then shortly thereafter to help reshape the roster. And now I feel like there's good depth there for guys who could jump into the lineup on any given week. But then also a couple of dart throws mixed in there that could hit or could not. But if they don't, then I get rid of them and take care of it next year.
Yeah, and you mentioned...
But you're absolutely right. You don't want those zeros.
No, you gotta keep the zeros off. It's even hard to roster. I know with this many roster spots, you'd think that if you get 2 or 3 starting quarterbacks, you'd want their backups as well. Well, those backups will be zeros every week, and so you're really playing with the bottom end of your roster a lot week to week, right? You have 53 men on your roster. I'd say there were probably about 45 guys on my roster that were pretty set in stone, like they were going to be on my team most of the season for sure. But then those bottom 5 to 8 guys, like weekly, you're churning and burning. It makes for a fun waiver run every week. Like, should I actually spend money this week, or do I just want to put in for a bunch of $0 bids? It really tests your... It really, I don't know what it is. It made it very interesting and different. And you mentioned some of the mistakes you may have made in the startup. Well, I mean, none of us had done a startup like this before. And so we all were kind of just going at it.
I think
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, I think as the season started, we started to realize how much more valuable these picks are, especially the first 2 rounds of picks, maybe even 3. And I had accumulated some future picks during the startup draft, so maybe they weren't necessarily mistakes, because as you can see, I had 3 first-round picks in this draft. Everybody I drafted will start, right, in the first round, which I couldn't say that last year with my first 3 picks. Did I make the best choices? Probably not. I took some risky calls there, but anyway, stacking the draft capital in this league and learning what their values are in relation to what some of the sites say, it's totally different when you have this many IDPs in the way.
Right. And as you can see, if you look down near the bottom, we had 7 rounds for our rookie draft. All 7 rounds, though, all those picks have some value. It's not like in a dynasty draft, if we had 7 rounds picks, I mean, rounds 5 through 7 would be completely, I mean, they'd almost be 0 value. But here you can see round 6, we got Jordan James, Woody Marks, DJ Giddens going, Trevor Etienne, Brashard Smith at the beginning of the 7th, Taj Brooks later there. Yes, you stole a Brashard Smith on me there. I was not able to get what would be now my...
still there. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe he was still there in the 7th.
I tried vehemently to move up to get him there at 701, actually, because I had 2 picks there in the 7th round. But no, you weren't biting. That was Brashard Smith all the way there for you. But yeah, a lot of filler defensive players there. But the thing is these defensive players are good players. Like, these are all dudes taken in on day 1 or day 2 of the NFL draft. So these guys are all, like, they're expected to start or play significant roles on their drafting team in the NFL. These aren't guys that are just going to be backup fillers. These are guys who are teams drafted for a reason, whether because a starter left via free agency or they've got a really old body there and they want a replacement. These defensive players that got taken in round 6 and 7 here, I mean, they're all good players. You just go through some of them. Martin went to San Francisco, the linebacker. Stousman, a great pass rusher there that the Saints got. go, let's see, Williams, the D tackle for Detroit. Hairston is the defensive back that went to the Bills in the first round. So you can see just a lot of talent there down in the 6th and 7th rounds there on the defensive side of the ball. And the thing is, for defensive players, like, their longevity tends to be somewhat longer than offensive players, honestly, other than maybe wide receiver and the quarterback position, but definitely longer than running backs for sure. Like, these, you take a linebacker versus a running back, and their average career, at least for a legitimate starter in the NFL, like, their careers generally last 5 to 8 years probably.
Yeah, it is a lot longer because they're the ones usually dealing out the injuries, not taking them as much. So there's that piece of it too. Plus, a lot of these defensive players are specialized in what they do, whereas like with running back, I mean, the constant pounding and wear and tear on their body with every touch, every block that they have to make, you know, it's a little bit different, and you'll roster the studs for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so,
for
actually,
sure.
if you don't mind, can you highlight my picks on
Yeah,
this? I just
let's do
wanted to
that
kinda go
for you.
through
So you can
this.
go through your picks here. There we go. We
Right.
see all of the picks you had. It's all over the place here. So
Yeah.
you did a lot of maneuvering. You can see your first 3 picks there in the first round, all offense. You went Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter plays both for me now.
Okay, fine, yes.
I
Hunter,
get a little bit there.
then
a little bit
Tetaroa. Tetaroa at the 6th pick he went. And then
Yeah,
Caleb
see,
Johnson you grabbed.
I was holding the 7th pick, and I had targeted McMillan at the 7th pick, excuse me, and I traded up a spot to get Ted. I gave up my 201 to do it. And then I was sitting at the 110, but got an insanely good offer to move off of that pick, in which I got Justin Jefferson and Patrick Queen, who's a top-end linebacker in this point format. And then, but on the back end of that, I was already working another deal to get the 111 because I was going to come off of that, in which I needed to get a young, promising running back because I just didn't have a ton.
Yeah, and because you didn't
so-
draft Genty.
Correct.
So you were
Correct.
still able to land one of the top 5 or 6 running backs in this class
Right.
in Caleb Johnson,
Exactly.
which is nice. Yeah.
Yep.
think.
And then I did trade back into the 2nd because I knew if I couldn't get Abdul Carter, the guy I took James Pierce out of Tennessee, which going into last year was projected as a potential #1 overall pick.
Yeah,
in the
or
draft.
top 5 at least for sure. He ended up going, what, 15th,
had a little bit
somewhere around there?
Low. No, so Atlanta traded back in to the first at like 22,
Okay.
maybe?
So
Something
that
like
was their second. They took 2 defensive players in the first
Correct.
round, I know. That was their
Yeah.
second one. Okay.
That was the second one, and so I felt with 10 points per sack, he was someone I really wanted to go after. So I didn't want to wait till the 3rd round to take that chance. So I went ahead and took the pick and took James Pierce, and then 3 picks in the 3rd. I mean, I was pretty active here trying to work deals and bring in other players. But yeah, I ended up getting 2 strictly IDP players, and then the rest was offense. But I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, no, with the value you were able to grab a Jordan James, Torrey Horton in the 6th round, and Brashard Smith in the 7th round. I mean, I can't really blame you. You know, you got Devin Neal there in the 3rd, and then Jordan James didn't go all the way till the beginning of the 6th. So you can see there,
That big run of defenders, man.
big run of defenders there in rounds 4 and 5. Because there's not a whole lot separating Devin Neal and Jordan James, right? I mean, yeah, Well,
Just
Devin
Christian
Neal has to.
McCaffrey, no big deal.
Well, they both have a stud in front of them, right? A
Yeah.
stud veteran in front of them, and then they're kind of battling out somebody else, right? Devin Neal's got to kind of deal with Kendre Miller, and Jordan James has to deal with Isaac Orendo. So they both. I think Devin Neal, obviously, why he's going earlier in drafts, he has a much easier path to beat out Kendre Miller, who's probably on the outs there in New Orleans. Whereas in San Francisco, Isaac Orendo definitely presents big home run hitter ability when he is in the lineup. So we'll see whether Jordan James is more of a solid, do everything type running back, whereas Garendo has that special skill set. So we'll see what the Niners end up doing when inevitably McCaffrey goes down for whatever amount of time he will at his age. You know he'll miss a game or two at least, even if he stays relatively healthy in this 2025 season.
So the important thing to note about both of those running backs and why I targeted them specifically for this league, both of the starters in front of them have injury histories and are older and probably will miss some time, I would imagine, at some point, whether it be load management or an absolute injury. Either which way, I think there's going to be more touches available than there were last year. And that's why I take those bets here, especially in the best ball format. And one of my favorite picks was taking Will Howard.
Yeah, you had to take him in the third here. Now, that's not so crazy. I mean, I think I grabbed him as high as the 304 or 305 in a couple of drafts. But yeah, Will Howard gaining steam here. I saw a few tweets yesterday and the day before about his OTAs. Now, obviously, he's not going against any defense here, but his completion percentage was awesome. And he's just looking really good so far to the Steelers brass.
Yeah, his QBR, his QBR through 2 days of OTAs was something like what, 148, something like that. And I think the adjusted QBR was like 156. So it was really stupid the numbers he's putting up, and I mean, unless Rodgers signs, I kind of look at him as a day one starter for that team. Not necessarily for every team, but for the Steelers, you know, you gotta kind of like that situation he's currently found himself in.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it may have been Todd McShay who, when the pick was made, said, "Now this guy is the perfect backup quarterback." And the irony is he may, other than Cam Ward, he may be the only other guy starting week one as far as rookie quarterbacks go this year. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see, because I don't think Jackson Dart will be starting week one. Shedeur Sanders, not likely. Tyler Shook, maybe. Right, maybe. He's probably in what, like a 50-50 battle with Spencer Rattler. I mean, you can argue he's even better than Spencer Rattler already there. But
Rattler's actually looked good in OTAs, so it's actually not just a walkover. Shook's going to start. It's, I mean, he's going to be in a battle. But one thing we know for certain in New Orleans is Aaron Rodgers will not sign. New Orleans.
Yeah. Now, like, I didn't end up with many Tyler Shook simply because of Will Howard. Like, I just looked at it like, well, Will Howard's a better quarterback than Tyler Shook. Just he just is. He's a better quarterback, and he played at Ohio State, whereas Shook played at Louisville and wherever before, like three other stops before there. But like, and I think that Will Howard, just the situation fits him well. He looks like a Steelers type quarterback, right? He's a good game manager, and when needed to, he can sling it. And so that's what the Steelers need. They just need somebody that doesn't turn the ball over a lot, right? Whereas Shook seems like a little bit more of a wildcat. And, in New Orleans, that might be fine because they need kind of a home run, right? Whereas Will Howard is more of just a steady game manager. He can go back there. And whether or not they get Aaron Rodgers, I think that the Steelers made a great selection by taking him. And we'll see. With Rodgers back there, I doubt even if Rodgers does sign there that he makes it all 17 games to start. So I'm sure we'll see Will Howard at some point during this season here, as long as he can beat out Mason Rudolph, of course.
It doesn't seem like that's too tough a task. So,
no, I just think Will Howard's a better quarter. I mean, I remember watching Mason Rudolph in college, and he was, really no different than what he's been in the NFL, and that's just a total gunslinger, high interception rate, and you're getting what you get with Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph's not somebody you want to be stuck with for an entire season. He's okay for a game or two. Or to come in mid-game and finish out a game. But yeah, after that, I just see Will Howard as a more stable option there in Pittsburgh. Then we go to the 5th round. Who'd you grab there? The linebacker, Knight. I can't even read. Where did he go? Oh, Cincinnati. Pick. Yes, yeah. Cincinnati's pick. That was their, I think, their 2nd round pick.
Yep. Another what I would consider a high-end sack guy, at least from the linebacker position. Again, keeping with sacks, I feel like that is the most repeatable point getter on the IDPs in this league. Right, interceptions and sacks are the biggest points. I think sacks are a little bit easier to come by than the interception. So
for sure,
wanted to focus more on that.
Yes.
Yep. And then
all right. Then you had your
James and Horton. I like this Horton kid, man, and I know it might be more of a dart throw or a year 2 play, but I mean it's the 6th round. What are you really trying to do there anyway? But I think this Horton kid's going to be good. I really do. But I've been wrong before on receivers. So,
well, when you get into the 4th round of a rookie draft and you're taking a shot on a wide receiver, you really the hit rate is so minimal. I mean, yes, Puka Nacua, sure, but that Puka Nacua is like a 1 in 10 year hit that you're going to get out of the 4th round. It's not like running backs. Running backs can hit at a way higher rate in the 3rd and 4th rounds than a wide receiver. Just look at last year. Bucky Irving and Tyron Tracy went in a number of 4th rounds of drafts. And now this year, I'm sure there's going to be a couple of these running backs. Maybe one of them is Brashard Smith. I know I'm sure hoping so because I've got 9 shares of him, but I don't know how that ended up happening. But I just felt like he was sliding in drafts. I don't really think that I over-selected him in any of my drafts. He just kept being there for me.
No, I mean, even if you're taking him at the tail end of the 3rd round in most rookie drafts, it's not a bad shot there. I mean, look at what's going there. It's shots in the dark, backup running backs. And
the key for him, just to cut in, he has a shot for an immediate role right away there.
As the pass, yeah, exactly. I think that's some of the best upside you can ask for, right? I mean, that's what we all assumed for Tyrone Tracy being behind Devin Singletary, and just happened to take over the backfield. But back to the receiver point here, if you actually look at the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds of receivers that went, Eric Ayomair, Jalen Royals, Pat Bryant, Savion Williams, Xavier Restrepo, Isaac Tesla, Torrey Horton, Dante Thornton, and Shamirian Deke. So they're all dart throws for 3 rounds, all of them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's after the first 3 rounds of what comes off the board, there's not a ton of guarantee there. So I feel like in the 6th and 7th rounds, for me and my squad there, I got someone who will probably produce, and then a couple of guys that could produce in year 1. Just got to see.
Absolutely. Now, if you go over to talked enough about your picks, Matt. All right.
I liked my picks.
I did too. I think they were very nice. Now, I went ahead and took Jackson Dart ahead of where you were picking at 110 and then 111. I wanted to make sure I was getting another quarterback here in this league. I just have Trevor Lawrence and Geno Smith right now. And I believe I also have Russell Wilson, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So that's why I wanted to grab Dart, really, just to solidify. I've got that spot down with the Giants. Obviously Winston could play too, but I'm not really worried there. I think it's either Russ plays, and then once Russ doesn't have it, they're going to turn to Dart. I think Winston will strictly be the QB2, no matter who's starting between Wilson and Dart there in New York. So that's why I went ahead and grabbed Jackson Dart there. Then I got my guy Bashul Tootin down at the 211. Grabbed Kyle Williams in the middle of the 3rd, receiver for the Patriots. Dylan Sampson, who I think will have we talked about Rashard Smith having a role. I think Dylan Sampson, with the Browns and the way that they run things there, it's not like Quinshon Judkins is going to come out of the gate with over 300 touches his first season. The Browns like to run a two running back monster there, traditionally, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt they had going there. I think that'll be kind of the similar situation with Judkins and Sampson for Cleveland. And then I had no picks there for rounds 4, 5, and 6, so I didn't get my hands on any defensive guys in those rounds. But Taj Brooks did fall to me there in round 7. I think he could be the backup in Cincinnati, meaning that with a Chase Brown injury, he could get some good action. He's really just battling Zach Moss and Samaje Perine for work right now. And Taj Brooks, again, just part of this rookie running back draft class. He's a good running back. Like, he's not your normal. He was picked. They took him in like the 4th round, I think, of the NFL draft. So to get a 4th round running back in a good running back class in the 7th round here of a fantasy draft, I'll take my chances there on Taj Brooks. And then with my final pick was an absolute homer pick. I just took Dylan Walker, the edge rusher that we grabbed, Tampa that is, out of Central Arkansas. He did lead the nation in pass rushing efficiency, I believe. So regardless of competition, I don't know who y'all took on there at Central Arkansas, but the metrics look good. And he carries that dual position. He plays D-line and linebacker, and that's something that I look for on my roster. I have a lot of guys that are dual eligibility, so that in a best ball format, they could hit either spot any week, because we start 3 D linemen, 3 linebackers, and 2 IDP flexes. So that's kind of important because the D linemen are harder to get more points out of than linebackers. Linebackers, you can get points out of just those tackle machines. And so that's what I kind of learned as the season went on. Again, last year was our first year at this, so we were all kind of learning on the fly. Yeah. And so I think as we go into year 2 and then 3 with this, we will be a little more aligned with the values and what players to give more value to eventually. Now, after the draft, you did make a big trade, and we want to bring that up.
Before we do
that one involved.
Let's talk about the Dylan Sampson pick there at the end of the 3rd.
Okay, fine. We'll get to your trade later. Go ahead with my Dylan Sampson pick.
Real quick on this, I think it's Dylan Sampson at the end of a 3rd, middle of the 3rd, whatever it may be. I think is actually a really good value because Cleveland drafted 2 running backs, like you mentioned, with Judkins. Probably not going to see 300 carries. We know it's going to be a split backfield. To what degree? Not 100% yet. But you're getting the lower end cost of that split backfield. I think that's super important to remember here, right? You don't have to have Judkins to get in on that Cleveland run game. You can wait a couple rounds and take Sampson, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something very important to point out and for any of our listeners and viewers to kind of think about as they approach their rookie draft or as they go into maybe a trade scenario.
Right. I mean, I kind of look at him just as like Kareem Hunt's replacement when he was in Cleveland, right? Mm-hmm. And Judkins is replacing Nick Chubb. They're very similar. I mean, I even comp Judkins to Nick Chubb pre-draft, and ironically, that's where he ended up landing. But then Dylan Sampson, I mean, in our pre-draft mocks, Dylan Sampson was pretty frequently going in the 2nd rounds of our rookie mock drafts. Like, he was on the higher end of those running backs after the top 5, because it was really only the top 5. And then R.J. Harvey, of course, exploded up the boards with being drafted in the 2nd round by the Broncos. But Dylan Sampson was in the argument for day 2 draft capital all the time. And then he slid to the 4th round because, well, the NFL kind of just let a lot of running backs slide to the 4th round there. But of the 4th round running backs, I mean, you've got Scadaboo, Tootin, Dylan Sampson, Jaden Blue, I think, went in the 4th to the Cowboys, 4th or 5th. Yeah. So, Taj Brooks went in that range. There were a couple of surprises, guys that I didn't think were necessarily. Woody Marks went in the 4th round. Jordan James went in the 4th round. DJ Giddens, I can't remember if it was 4th or 5th.
I think 5th.
5th, I think. But you can tell, I mean, just all these.
In the draft.
Yeah, all these names we're rattling off here. You can just really, literally, I mean, go back to the 2018 running back class, and you will see just the overabundance of talent that was in that class. I mean, Alvin Kamara went in the 3rd round. Then you had, like, James Conner went in I think, the back end of the 3rd in that draft. But then you had Aaron Jones going in the 5th round. Jamal Williams, the Packers took as well. I think they took actually Jamal Williams ahead of Aaron Jones. Then Austin Eckler went. He might have not even been drafted, I think, Austin Eckler. But yeah, if you want to compare a talent level at running back in a class, just go look at that class and know now why it's worth all of these dart throws in the 3rd and 4th rounds of your drafts, your rookie drafts, to take running back shots. Guys like Brashard Smith. Guys, just look for the opportunity. And, I mean, you'll see. When Jonathan Taylor goes down and DJ Giddens is in there getting some good work, you'll know why. I mean, these guys all can play. And so I'm just taking as many shots on these running backs as possible. And
that's what this class gave us.
Yeah. We'll see. Okay, so now that we discussed Dylan Sampson, I wanted to get into the trade you did following the draft. And that one involved a stud pass rusher, and we want to talk about the value of those stud pass rushers, you went after your guy. I know you're a Texans fan. You went after Will Anderson, who he's going into what, his third year now? Third year.
Third year.
Third year now.
Third year.
And
yeah.
you asked me before the trade what it would cost, and I said, if I had him, I'd want 2 firsts. And you were like, but what did you end up having to give up for him?
I think I gave up a future first, second, and Trey Benson.
Yes. So Trey Benson is
up a little bit of future with a running back, but a first and a second with all the running backs that I got either pre-draft and during the draft. I felt like it was still a good deal, knowing what Will Anderson's capable of putting up any given week. I know he had a 60-point performance, several 30s. So I felt like that was worth it, and my defense absolutely needed the injection of that kind of production. I also did another trade post-draft in which I traded Joe Milton and Ben Sinnott for Nick Bolton.
Yes,
which
good
like
pick
that's
up
kind
there,
of a steal.
Bolton.
So
yeah,
took advantage. I mean, it's not taking advantage. It's just knowing your league mates and what they're looking for. I knew my trade partner likes to back up all of his starters with their quote-unquote handcuffs.
Sure.
And I knew he was high on Sinnott, probably as high as I am. But Nick Bolton's production, I was going to do that deal every time.
Yeah, Bolton's a pretty young, that linebacker tackle machine that we talked about, plus a higher profile playing with the Chiefs. His name is more well-known, than the middle linebacker for the Panthers or whatever, right? Right. Nick Bolton's going to be in the limelight half the year because every other week we're gonna see the Chiefs in a primetime game. So it does matter. Yep. Things like that you may or may not look at, but there is that artificial dynasty value, that ADV that gets pumped into players that are on TV more than others. So just something to keep in mind. And so we wanted to share this with you just so you got a taste of what we like to call franchise football, not just dynasty, but full-on franchise 53-man roster, start 11 offense, start 11 defense. It's super exciting. I encourage you to try it out. Just don't get involved in too many of these formats. That's all I have to say.
It is a golfing.
Yes. All right. But if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Birdhouse Dynasty Show. It's a steal right now, just $3 a month. You get all our rankings, and the chat room is especially great. You also get one free roster review right now. We will be doing a roster review for C.D. Velasquez, Carlos, that is. We've been tinkering with his team and his league, looking at some of the other rosters on it, all in preparation for doing his roster review live for you folks out there. But other than that, Matt, anything else to share before we get out of here?
No, man.
He's
looking
silent.
Forward to the roster review later today, and I'm actually on the clock for one of our drafts. So. Oh
man, you got to get going. Yes, we will get to that startup also for you. We started it. We're wild here. We did another startup, but we'll let you know about that soon. All right, thanks for joining us today, and remember, never stop working.